There is a question every leader asks when a new technology arrives. Is this one of those changes I need to fundamentally reorganize around, or is this one I can absorb into what I am already doing? For the internet, most organizations got away with the second answer. For SaaS, they got away with it again. The ones that did not pay a price, but the market was forgiving enough and the transition slow enough that recovery was possible. For AI, the second answer will not work. And the reason is not that AI is bigger or faster or more pervasive, though it is all three. The reason is that AI is categorically different in its mechanism. Every previous technology changed how information moved between people. AI changes who or what produces the information in the first place. That distinction, once understood, changes everything about how a leader must respond. This module is the argument for why this time is different, not in degree, in kind. 4 things you will take from this module. The mechanism that separates AI from the internet and from SaaS. Why the old playbook, absorb the tool and capture the efficiency, quietly fails on AI. The 3 traps that hold intelligent incumbents still while the era moves. And your real competitive timeline, which is shorter than the one you think you have. During my time at Polycom, I was part of a high-potential leadership group called Polycom QUEST. My project was to assess the feasibility of moving into cloud-based video conferencing as a service, a SaaS model delivered over the internet at a fraction of the cost of the hardware the company had built its business on. At the end of the process, the decision went to personal hardware devices instead. The logic was transparent and, in the short term, entirely rational, an adjacent market. It kept the company in hardware, where its margins, its channels, and its capability lived, and a shorter time to revenue. The SaaS investigation was shelved, not because the argument was wrong, because the model required cannibalizing existing revenue, and the governance structure of the company made the alternative impossible to pursue. Polycom is no longer independent. Zoom is worth more than the entire enterprise video conferencing hardware market was at its peak. The internet and SaaS were transmission technologies. They changed the speed, cost, and reach of information moving between humans. The human remained the source of the intelligence and the author of the output. AI is not a transmission technology. It is a production technology. It does not move the analysis faster between people. It produces the analysis. It does not deliver the report more cheaply. It writes the report. It does not connect the salesperson to the customer. It can be the thing the customer talks to. The intelligence layer, which had remained entirely human through the internet era and the SaaS era, is now distributed between humans and systems simultaneously in real time. That is the categorical break, not degree, kind. Leaders consistently misread the timeline they have. Human adaptation to new technology follows a consistent arc, and the average timeline for a major technological shift to reach mainstream enterprise integration has historically been 10 years. Leaders who understand this 10-year arc often conclude that they have 10 years to respond. They do not. The competitive timeline is not the human adaptation timeline. Competitors who move faster capture market position, customer relationships, and category narrative, while incumbents are still assessing their readiness. The window in which a leader can move and still reach a winning position is 3 to 5 years in most sectors and shorter in high-velocity industries. They think they have 10 years. They have 3. Consider what happened to one of the largest professional services firms in the world. In October 2025, KPMG published a report on enterprise AI adoption. Within months, it was forced to pull it after companies named in the report stated that its descriptions of their AI deployments were untrue. The inaccuracies were identified as AI hallucinations. KPMG had AI, it had reviewers, it had a brand built on exactly the verification discipline that failed. What it did not have was a process designed for a tool that produces rather than transmits. The instrument was the author, and the workflow had no gate positioned to govern an author. It still assumed was a person. This is the steam engine moment. The leaders who treated the steam engine as a faster horse were outcompeted by those who understood that the nature of the work had changed and rebuilt the farm around the machine. So, why are so many intelligent incumbents failing to respond? 3 traps running together. The governance trap. A publicly listed company operates under a model that demands measurable, predictable returns on a 90-day cycle, and transformation does not work on that timeline. The quarterly trap is its engine. An incumbent is expected to fund its AI transformation from within existing earnings without disrupting those earnings, while an AI native startup receives patient capital measured in years, not quarters. That is the governance arbitrage that defines this era. The timeline trap compounds both, conflating the 10-year human adaptation arc with a 3 to 5 year competitive window, and the consequence is structural. The winners are being built elsewhere, outside the weight of legacy governance. There is a way out. It does not begin with the CEO, it begins with the board. If you are a CEO, the question is not whether your organization needs to transform for the AI era. It does. The question is whether your governance structure gives you permission to do so at the speed your competitive timeline demands. If the honest answer is no, the work begins with the board, before the technology strategy, before the operating model redesign. If you are a board member, the question is sharper. Are you governing an organization through a structural technological transition with the intelligence that transition requires, or applying governance frameworks designed for a stable, competitive environment to an environment that has changed categorically? The technology is not the constraint. The governance is. And governance is the one thing a board has the direct power to change. So to close, the internet and SaaS moved information between people. AI produces the output, and that is a break in kind, not degree. The old playbook, bolt the tool onto the process, fails here because it inserts an ungoverned author into a workflow that assumes a human is writing. The constraint on your response is not the technology, it is governance, the quarterly cycle, and the timeline you think you have. And the window is 3 to 5 years, not 10. The next module turns the lens from the organization to the person at the top of it. The same forces that trap the enterprise also shape its leaders. The quarterly cycle decides who rises and which capabilities atrophy on the way up. The next module names the leader who will not survive this transition, behavior by behavior. That is where we go next. I will see you there.